We picked them. Now what do we do? Well, welcome back to the Rockin' Sea Homestead. My name is Lance. I'm going to welcome you to our channel. So this is going to be our second video in how to preserve your herbs. And this is going to be the drying video. So we're going to dry in two different methods. First off, we're going to use the dehydrator to dry some of them. And then we're going to tie some up and then put them on a rack and dry them that way and just naturally let them dry. Of course, this is going to be much quicker and it may take a couple weeks with the drying rack. All right, so we got out our dehydrator. This is just a cheapy Cuisinart dehydrator. Has a couple heat settings that blows air through it. Something I've used a lot for jerky, and we've actually dried some herbs before. So this is what we're gonna do. So we have, I think, 5 trays here. So we're just gonna start with the first one. And this is our spearmint. And these are actually on the stems. If you can get them on the stems, it is actually better, because what we found out before is if you just try to dry the leaves, sometimes they do fall through the little holes. But you can do that. We actually have our lemon balm is going to be that way. And so we're going to do a full tray of spearmint. And then once you have that filled up, you just get another tray out and you're ready for the next one. So this is actually going to be chocolate mint. And what you're wanting to do is just kind of get it spread out enough so they're not just overlaying each other. Very similar to how we dried it. And it shouldn't matter, since these are all in the mint family, if you're dehydrating them together. Now, if you guys heard of anything different, leave us a comment down below. I haven't seen or heard where you cannot dry these together. So that is what we're going for. So that gives us a full tray of chocolate mint. And then now we're going to fill up the rest with this lemon balm. Now you may be saying, Lance, that's not very green looking. Well, you're right, it's not. Some of the leaves turn a little purple or red, some people were calling it. And that's okay. From what we've read and heard, that's just kind of what happens when they get a little old and they kind of turn a little bit of a color, but it doesn't affect the flavor. So we picked through these pretty well and kind of got the best looking leaves, and they're going to dry up. They're going to kind of turn a different color anyways. So I may take a little bit of these out and just put another tray in here so we can get them all spread out like that. So one more tray. This lemon balm smells so good. All right, so we have all the trays that we're going to use. We have one extra tray, but that's okay. You don't need it. So just put the lid on there, and then I'm just going to turn it on low. And then that's going to run probably for about 8 hours. So we're going to leave that run overnight and then come back tomorrow when these are all nice and dry. Then we'll show you what they look like and show you how we jar them up and store them.
So drying your herbs using the dehydrator is one method that we've tried before and worked really well. And of course the other method is just to tie them up and hang them on a drying rack. So that's what we're going to do with a couple of samples that we've got here. I've got some sage and I've got some rosemary, and we're going to do that tie up and hang method with just about all of the herbs that are left over. But we're going to save out a few because we want to do some freezing techniques on them as well. So here we go. We're going to get the sage tied up. We've got just some string. Anything that you can have that'll bind them together should be fine. We've got them already kind of bunched up together. It's multiple stems that we're going to tie up together here, so you don't have to do this one at a time. And I'm really just going to tie a simple knot around this thing. That simple. Then same thing for this little batch of rosemary. Once again, it's multiple stems all together. You don't have to do those one at a time. So I'm going to tie that up in a knot. And I've left a little excess string on the sides here because that's what I'm going to use to actually tie it onto the drying rack, which we're going to do right now. So this is the drying rack that we're using. It's actually out of the garden section at Lowe's. really to be used more like a trellis. But when I saw that at Lowe's the other day, I'm like, this is perfect for a drying rack. So I bought it and it has been really good. It's what we use to dry the garlic on and what we'll use to dry our onions and now our herbs as well. So here's my bundle of sage that I've already tied up. So I'm just going to come here. I've got my loose ends that I had left over after I tied it, and I'm simply going to tie it right onto the drying rack like that. Now, we keep this drying rack in one of our spare rooms. We brought it out here to actually show you how it's done because that room's a little bit tight for videotaping. So we're doing it out here, but ultimately we'll pick this up and we'll move it into that room. And in the space that we typically store it in, we have a tarp on the floor, like just actually a big sheet of plastic, basically, that we keep on the floor so we can keep, if seeds drop or dirt or whatever drops, we protect the floor.
As you can see, we got them all tied up and strung up on the little lattice work. Super cool. We'll take this back in the room here in a bit, but just wanted to give you one other shot of kind of what it looks like when it's drying. And like I said, these are going to take a couple weeks to dry out. And then after that, we'll peel off the leaves and stick them in mason jars. I don't know if we'll do a video on that or not, but we will give you guys an update at one point or another. All we have to do now is wait for the dehydrator to get done, and we'll come back and show you what those look like. Well, folks, it's the next day. We've been drying these in the dehydrator all day and all night, actually. Just had them on low and didn't really worry about them. I flipped the trays one time right before we went to bed. So this was the first tray. It was like this to begin with, and I just kind of flipped them all around. They are completely dry. And so at this point, what we're going to do is I'm just going to try to take these. First off, I'm going to take the leaves off of the stems. I'm just kind of using a plate. And then I'll kind of crush them up a little bit and have them ready for the jar that we're going to store them in. Let's see if I can tell what this is. This is the spearmint. So it's very minty still. So if those were wondering if dehydrating sucks the mint flavor or whatever other kind of flavor that you may be drying on the herb, it has a very distinct mint flavor. All right, so I got all of the spearmint picked off the stem, and we're just going to put them in this little mason jar. And I'm not going to crush it up too fine right now. We're going to wait till we use it. I mean, there was some crushing of it when I was getting it off the stem, but for the most part, just like it was dried. Marcy made me up these great looking labels. So spearmint for July 22nd. That's when we put them into the dehydrator, and we just use recycled lids and caps. And now that's in airtight, and we'll just put them over here with all the other ones. I got to do this for the rest of the herbs, and we'll come back at the very end. All right, so we got all the herbs put in the jars. So we ended up with about 3/4 of a spearmint jar, about the same for the chocolate mint. And we ended up with almost 2 jars, one bigger jar. I don't know what size the jars these are, for the lemon balm, because we didn't want to squish them up. So really, it's really that easy when it comes to the dehydrator. Now, for the ones that we put on the drying rack, we'll let those dry, you know, and check on them about every week or so and see how dry they are. Once we're done, we go through the same process as we did here. It's just that they were just dried in fresh air. Last year, we hung them up on our wall. This year, we're hanging them up on a rack, and we're trying to do that all throughout the summer, just not during the end of the season before trying to cut everything back. But this is, you know, now on these, I kind of squished them up and put them in here. This is a little bit of parsley, some sage, a ton of sage, and a little bit of our sweet basil that we have left from last year. And we just keep these on the counter and or in our spice rack area, so whenever we're ready to use them, they're handy and we got fresh herbs. So guys, hopefully you've learned how to dry your herbs in a dehydrator or hanging rack. And we definitely appreciate you guys coming back, watching our video. We really do appreciate that. And if you guys haven't subscribed to our channel, there'll be a link right down here. Of course, give us a big thumbs up, ring that bell, all that kind of fun stuff. Hey, and if you haven't followed us on Instagram or Facebook, there'll be links down in the description down below. We'd appreciate it if you check us out there. You may actually get some updated videos or pictures before you see them in the videos on YouTube. So give us a check out. And from our homestead to yours, have a blessed day, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye.